We've got Mr. Bahram Vakil with us as well to discuss some of the bankruptcy declarations that have been delayed. No fresh insolvencies for a year. What has been, where has the government delivered and where have they lacked? Mr. Vakil, thanks so much for joining us. Now, popular view seems to dictate that the package was blown up to quite a big extent compared to the actual financial commitment from the government. What are your thoughts on it?
I think it was a balancing act. This is, of course, not my expertise area, but there was the thought, I guess, was there's not much fiscal space. And therefore, a lot of the package is in terms of guarantees and non-cash outlays, and a much smaller part is actually cash out.
Sure. What do you feel about the announcement that will delay, the bankruptcy declaration of stressed assets? And is this positive, or do you feel that it's simply delaying the pain, pushing it further down the road?
I think, you need to break that up a bit. So one is for the MSMEs. I think definitely some relief was required, no doubt about that. And therefore, the hike in the cap to 1 crore is a very sensible one. I think, as you have just said, you are delaying, a lot of those zombie companies. So if there was a way which they have kind of tried to do by saying that COVID debt will fall out of the definition of default, if there could have been a kind of red line test that anything that was prior to February, which was unrelated to COVID, those could have continued. Even the filings. But I guess the feeling was to keep it clean and just suspend for a year. I certainly do hope that the matters that are already filed, those must continue. Otherwise, it would be a big loss of all the momentum we made in the last 4 years. And the other one, which was a little difficult to understand, is Section 10, which is where it's a kind of voluntary filing where the company itself does it. If a company puts up their hands and says that, I can't cope and I would like to restructure or liquidate, then I think Section 10 could have been carved out, because that's really where you're forcing him to stay alive for 1 year. The assets will deteriorate and he's going through pain which he himself doesn't want to do.
Sure. Mr. Vakil, do you really hold the government accountable for committing too much and perhaps under-delivering in that sense? Or do you believe this is the best hand that could have been dealt with, given the fiscal constraints that we currently have and the inaffordability of a large stimulus package?
Those companies which badly need the credit, the guarantees should definitely work, because then, the whole issue was banks. As you all know, liquidity is not the issue at all. Liquidity is at an all-time high with the banks. So it was just a question of credit risk. So those guarantees should certainly help. And I just hope the implementation is swift, as it has been in country after country. We read across the world, the implementation has been so quick. I really hope that is the same in our case. So for that, it's excellent. Again, I think in terms of the really bottom of the pyramid, the poor, I hope the money, the DBTs are done quickly, because that's where the pain is the most acute.
Sure. Just an extension to what you just mentioned. In your view, what are the most positive and real elements of the economic package? And conversely, where is it that you see most froth in the announcements made?
So wearing the lawyer hat, I think the legal changes that have been suggested, those are very exciting. And those are changes we've talked about for so long, which will make us globally competitive. We all know the basic factors of capital, land, labor, and capital itself. So I think that if we do those things swiftly, they're not easy, but we've known these problems for a long, long time. So those measures, if again, as I say, they're implemented quickly, I think that's very exciting. I think agriculture, again, you're taking me way out of my area of expertise, but agriculture, we know 55% of people employed in India. Its GDP, on the other hand, is now at 15-16% contribution. So we have huge potential, and they made some dramatic changes there. Those, again, are very, very exciting. So I think there's a lot that we will know in the next 3 months, how well all this works.
When the slowdown happened in 2019, the government came out and said we'll be starting loan melas. We want to start an environment where loan is going to start picking up once again, but frankly nothing has seen. So my question to you is that right now, if banks they start lending again, what are the chances that in the next 2 or 3 years another bank recapitalization or NPA cycle will start? Because we know that the shape of the economy is such that everybody who will take loan right now will not be able to repay back. The guarantee will ensure, or the government guarantee in this case will ensure, that universally everybody gets a loan. Some may need it, some may not need it, and some may don't want it. So how do you think the dynamics would change a year from now, or 12 months, if 18 months from now, when the loan guarantee starts getting faded away?
No, that's a very good question and a very important one. No doubt that's a risk. And therefore, I think they've been cautious. And I get a sense that, they are keeping some of their bullets because they feel that they may be needed down the road, especially in terms of, direct stimulus. But to answer your question, I think there are, as long as enough time is given, we hope the cycle will turn. We all know this is an event-driven recession. So God willing, nobody knows this, but God willing, if the virus is behind us, say, first calendar quarter or second calendar quarter of next year, then the economy should revive both in terms of demand and supply. And therefore, these MSMEs and MFIs, microfinance institutions, which are primarily going to benefit from the credit guarantee schemes that have been announced by the government, they should be able to turn around. So I think there will be some defaults, there's no doubt, because again, as you said, we came into it in a pretty bad state. It was not that we were in a very strong state in December, Jan, or even February. So we've come in a little weak, and therefore this has crippled us in some ways. But I think, it's always a matter of time. The reason it's called a cycle is there are always ups and downs. So I'm quite confident. And, I know of certain microfinance institutions that I work closely with, that their collections are already back to 50%. They're already back there. And the poor have a fantastic sense of integrity. So it's not that all these will default. There will be some defaults, and there will be some who will ride out the pain thanks to the credit guarantee schemes.
Well, it's appreciate your time, and thank you for joining us.